Okay, so this is going to be very informal. Let me check the hallway. Hello to our one person online, maybe two. If you're online, can you type in the chat box a hi or to let us know you're there? Crickets in the hallway. What's your name? Julie. Hi, Julie. Thanks for sticking it out. Have you been here all 3 days? Yeah. So, and did we have anybody commenting in the box?
Not yet.
Okay, but you could still see that someone's on?
It says yeah.
Okay, great. They just have it on. So I'm Monica Adrian, and I live in Merced, California. Where are you from?
Here, I work across the street.
Oh, great. For the County Office of Ed?
No, for
Orchard School District. Okay, and is that a public school district? Okay, great. So I'm 2 hours away, but that's very, very different than the Bay Area. So, and I actually work for the Merced County Office of Education, but I wear a variety of hats. Today I'm representing the Center for Disease Control because I am an ambassador to California for their Learn the Signs Act Early campaign. So that's what we're going to talk about today. You're going to learn about lots of great free resources. I'd like to have a conversation with you, and if anybody's online, about how you would like to use this information. Everything that I talk about today is available to you free of charge in multiple languages. So there we go. So have you heard of the Learn the Signs Act Early materials before? Okay, how did you hear about them? Do you use them?
I don't remember how I heard about them.
Okay.
And I haven't had to use them much in the past because I was at a high school previously.
Okay.
I'm at a K through 8.
Okay.
And we also have a special ed preschool.
Special ed
And,
preschool.
Yeah, and working with early identification with the regional center and transitioning them into school.
Great.
So.
Great. So these are tools that can be used in a variety of capacities, and really there for you to use. So that's great. So I hope that you'll become familiar with many different tools and resources, some of the things that I have there at your table. If somebody is online, just to let you know that anything I'm giving out here today, you can access on the, hello, welcome.
I know, there's hardly any.
That's okay. We've got 3 now. We've just increased like by 300%.
What wonderful ratios.
Yeah, exactly. So we think we've got somebody online also. So I was introducing myself. My name is Monica Adrian. I wear a variety of hats. My day job, I work for the Merced County Office of Education in our early education department. I supervise a variety of programs. Typically, we work with children who have challenging behaviors or low levels of social skills. One of the programs, we do developmental screenings of little ones who've entered the child welfare system. So I live in the 0 to 5 world, and I've lived there for a long time. But I'm here today representing the Center for Disease Control because I am their Learn the Signs Act Early ambassador to California. And so I want to introduce you to a variety of materials that are available to you for free in a variety of languages. And so this is Julie. She works across the street. And who are you?
I'm Grace.
Hi, Grace. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you live.
I live in Santa Cruz.
Okay.
And I teach preschool at the Temple Bethel, which is in Aptos. And so I'm a preschool teacher and I'm a resource specialist.
Awesome. Not a bad place to live, huh?
Hard commute getting back and forth here.
Yeah, that's true. All right. And have you heard of the Learn the Signs Act Early materials before?
No.
Okay. Welcome. And tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Peggy Soto. I've been in early childhood for 30 years.
Great.
I worked at a school, St. Elizabeth Day Home, that recently closed for 24 years. Now I'm working for Head Start
Great.
here in San Jose, and we are an inclusion site.
Awesome. Okay, well, nice to have you. As I said, for those of you who might be turning in virtually, if you're out there, drop us a line in the chat box so we know that you're there. If you want to tell us who you are, you can. You don't have to, just a hi. That way we won't forget you're there. So some of you may need to leave early today. I can guarantee we won't stay here till 4:15. How does that sound?
Good.
Okay. So I do talk quickly, so I'll try to like squish it all in as fast as possible. But some of the things I want you to walk away with today are that tracking milestones and early identification are important. Many of these things you already know, you hear over and over again, but I also want you to get better at discussing it with families or other educators about why it's important to identify concerns early and what does it mean, learn the signs, act early. Because historically, maybe a lot of people are of the opinion, let's just wait and see. So we'll talk more about that, about why we want to move away from let's just wait. You have an important role in the jobs that you play and as a community member in helping families also understand how to monitor their children's development. So the Center for Disease Control offers free Learn the Signs, Act Early resources and tools. So let's play a quick little game. We can go through this quickly. One of the things that you have here today are Milestone Moment booklets that you can order for free. I've given you copies in English and Spanish. This is it right here, Milestone Moment booklet. And you've got one here, you've got one here. Whoopsie. Where do I not go by? Don't go by the speaker. Okay, so we can do a quick little, so this is a way that you can, if you did workshops with parents, you can do an activity like this to help them open up these little booklets. These booklets are something that we would encourage you to share with all families. Wouldn't it be great as soon as the baby was born, parents were getting this in the hospital and a nurse was helping them understand how to use it right from day one. But so you can play a little game like, okay, what milestone is this 4-month-old showing? And you can open up to 4 months. And so can you find anything in there? I don't know if you've opened up. Holding her head steady. Okay, let's see what it says. While lying on her stomach, this baby has pushed up on her elbows. Most babies are able to do this by the time they're 4 months old. And here's one. What milestone is the 6-month-old showing? And so this one's reaching. So she's reaching for her toy. By the time most infants are 6 months old, they show curiosity about things and try to get things that are out of reach. And then you can do what milestone is this 9-month-old showing, and to save time, we don't have to open it up and look for those. But it's a great way to get people to actually open up the tool and realize that, gosh, even though we might have been working in the field for 20 or 30 years, it's helpful to have something to refer to. Even as a parent, I also, by the time I had my first child, and I have 3, they're 15, 12, and 9, I'd had, numerous child development units, had been working in the field, but it didn't matter. When you're a mommy, it all goes out the window, right? And so the doctor asks, can he hold a spoon? And I'm like, I don't know, I've never given him a spoon, So, having a booklet like this can not only help me identify if concerns are present, but it can help me anticipate what children at certain points in time might be capable of doing. There's also nice tips for parents of how they can help their children's development at certain points in time. And so these booklets are great, and what I like about the quality of them is that they're less likely to end up in a trash can. However, just to let you know, and we'll talk more about this too, if parents are not into paper, now there's an app for that. So they can download the Milestone Tracker app, which is free and available for the iProducts and Android products, and it's in both English and Spanish, and I'll talk more about that. But so you have an important role in helping the families that you serve help their children develop to be the best that they can be. One of the interesting things in particular, that really stood out, I did watch and this would have been if we went through all of the different age groups, I did watch the keynote speaker for a while, and, I don't know, how many of you were in there? And so when he was talking about, some of the pains of the parents and the tyranny of developmental milestones, I don't know if you remember that bullet point. Yeah, and I was like, woo. And he's right, the tyranny of developmental milestones, especially when you have a child who has developmental disabilities or different delays, seeing what kids who are typically developing are capable of doing can sometimes not be very pleasant. And so it's something for us to think about, and it's something that we think about when we're giving these presentations. And we have to be very thoughtful about who our audience is, meaning the parents that we're sharing information with, and how we go about it. So one of the things that we really want to talk about, though, is sharing milestones or celebrating milestones. And most children may have delays, but they may not be delayed in every single domain. And so parents can also see areas where their children are growing and developing on track by using tools like this. So that was just a side note, because when he says the tyranny of developmental milestones, he's not saying we should stop educating parents about milestones. He's just saying be very thoughtful about how we use this information, especially if you're working with a family who's very well aware already that their child has some delays. So typically, these tools, though, can be used universally for all families and really as a teaching tool so that we can help families understand different developmental milestones so they can have realistic expectations, right? How many of us, by the way, it's hard to be objective as a parent, how many of us have worked with families that really don't know what 2-year-olds are capable of doing or not doing and have way too high of expectations or way too low of expectations? So this helps us to start conversations with families around what kids might be capable of doing at certain points in development. So when I talk about learning the signs, acting early, it's really important to me. These slides may not be easy to see where you are, but let me give you a description of what we're looking at here. These are some very recent statistics from our state of California. These are available to anybody on the California Department of Ed website. And this came from a presentation that our superintendent of special education conducted at a workshop last year, and she made these slides public to everybody. So looking at this section here, this is California students with any disability, and on the right, it's California students with autism, and all of these are broken down by age. And I want to point out the smallest little slivers here. Well, ignore the teeniest one is age 19 to 22. So these are children receiving services in our public special education services, birth through 22. And so it's not uncommon for me to or I'm not surprised to see the littlest sliver being 19 to 22. But I want us to focus on the blue slivers, and that's ages 0 to 5. And the lighter blue is ages 6 to 12. So whether we're talking about autism or developmental disabilities as a whole, when you see that, what does it make you think about?
That it hasn't been detected yet. People haven't even gone and looked or asked for their child to be assessed.
Okay. What does it make you ladies think about?
The wait and see response, like you said, and probably, I feel like a lot of schools are new to interventions without having an IEP, right? Like the MTSS structure.
Yeah.
Interventions, and so I think if those aren't well established in schools, then it's likely that the kid isn't going to make progress as well, and this continues to.
And it's very old-fashioned to say wait and see.
Yeah.
It's very old-fashioned. I remember, even when I was younger, I heard that. They're too young to be assessed. I remember hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning of my, when I was teaching.
Right.
I heard that. Or you can't even give an observation because you're not the professional.
Oh.
You see it,
So that's certainly something in the early childhood education field that has been a trend that we're helping to change, because you are the front line and you see children every single day, and you know when somebody is developing differently.
With or 3-year-olds.
That's right. You know 3-year-olds. That's exactly right. You know 3-year-olds. Exactly right. So we'll talk about why then it's important for you to know how to have a conversation with parents. So you notice I also gave you that today as a handout, tips for talking with parents when you have developmental concerns. So we want you to be able to have those conversations with families. We want you to be able to, within your agencies, have a structure though, and guidelines that you're following, and not just, okay, I saw Oprah last week and I know Oprah's not, and so I think your child has autism. So it's not that.
Definitely, they have everything in place.
Yeah. So you said a few things. Maybe they're not identified. Maybe they don't have certain things in place. Why is it why? There's one reason. Why is it so important though that we shift this? And ideally, I would love to see this be this size, and this one be this size. Why is it so important to act early?
So services are available. Their intervention can happen.
Right. But why early? Why early?
The earlier, the more successful.
Okay, and I heard you adding more? Right. It's when our brains are most malleable. Our brains are most malleable in our first 5 years. It doesn't mean that kids cannot learn or us as we get older, but it's going to get much, much harder. There's much more potential in that young brain than there is even after that child turns 6 or 7 or 8. And it's going to take a lot more effort to make change. And so right now, this is not lined up with what we know brain science to be and what could benefit children the best. Which is why, when we're talking about these tiered levels of supports, we have to be very careful because we don't want to miss out on that time when a child might need more intervention. But oftentimes, these little ones are sometimes forgotten about. And in some communities, there are a great amount of services for little ones 0 to 5. In others, not so much. So that adds to the why we're going to wait and see. Well, we can identify, but we don't have anything to serve them. So we need to also make sure that all of our programs are equipped to meet the needs of children with special needs. So what's the issue? So this was, I don't know if you realized, but it was within the past 6 months or so, the number of children with autism changed again. So at one point it was 1 in 68. It's now 1 in 59. And the concern is children are not diagnosed until at least 4 years old much of the time. Many children are identified sooner, but oftentimes they're not identified until they're much older. When we know that the longer it takes to identify a child with concerns, they're not receiving intervention that can likely help them to be more successful in the long run. About 1 in 6 children ages 3 to 17 has a developmental disability in general. One of the things is, another concern is in the education field, some people will say, well, if there was a concern, the doctor would have identified it. How many of you are parents? Are you a parent yet? Yeah, you're a parent? Okay, so when you take your children to the doctor, how long does the doctor spend in the office with your child?
10 minutes at the most, probably.
So.
I don't have a lot of time. If it's just like a cough, or if it's your whole exam, but still, they don't see them but every few months, too.
Yeah.
So they don't get enough time.
Yeah, and there are big efforts to try to have medical homes do developmental screenings, and at some point that will be something that's happening universally, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Doctors are very responsive to what the parents bring to them as a concern, which is another reason we want to empower parents with being able to track milestones themselves, so that if concerns were present, they can bring their little booklet and say, or their app and say, listen, I've been watching Johnny and for a few months, and I had concerns, and I still have concerns. And this is where my concerns are. He's not doing this, and he's doing this. And this booklet here, which, is very reliable and comes from very top sources, is telling me that I need to, ask for help and, maybe a further evaluation. So we really want to empower parents so that they can understand what's typical and what's not. So 12 to 16% of U.S. children have a developmental or behavioral disorder. We're seeing more and more children with bigger and bigger challenging behaviors, exposure to toxic stress and trauma. At least that's what we're seeing in the Central Valley. Is that what you're seeing in the Bay Area? Especially those of you that have been in field for longer. It used to be like 1 or 2 little ones with those extreme. Now, a third of your class may have more extreme behaviors, right? So you get a day off being in here today. So So talking about the doctors, fewer than 50% of pediatricians use valid and reliable screening tools, and that's nationwide. And so we just can't assume, well, if there was a concern, the doctors would have identified it. Yeah, oh, did you have a thought? You're just fixing your hair. Oh, fix your hair. Yeah, you're good. But we just can't assume that if there was a concern, the doctors would have identified it. Or if you live in a professional shortage area like I do, we do not have a developmental behavioral pediatrician or a clinical child psychologist who has the authority to provide a professional diagnosis. So we're really up a creek in small counties like ours or rural communities where you don't have the proper professional that can provide that diagnosis. So we have people coming over the hill into the Bay Area, bringing back their diagnoses to our county so that they can say, no, listen, there's something going on with my little one. So you hear me talking about developmental monitoring, using checklists, or developmental screenings. Developmental surveillance is a term that the medical field uses. It doesn't matter what the term that we want to use, but what we want to talk about, there's different ways to monitor development. When you're using tools like checklists, that can be done every day, right from the start, just typically with all children. We want to just know what are kids capable of doing, what can I do to help them? All right, here we go. So that, parents can do that, teachers, ongoing, beginning at birth. And then screenings are more in-depth, and that's more like the ASQ, ASQSE, not done once a week, they're done periodically, recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics to be done at 9, 18, 24, and 30 months. That includes the MCHAT, which is the autism screening. And typically you need some special training to conduct developmental screenings, or at least know how to use the tools. So they both look for developmental milestones and are both important for tracking development. One does not take the place of the other. In fact, I would suggest that if we made these available to parents, by the time they're supposed to fill out a developmental screening for their child, their answers might be more accurate because they've already been tracking their child's development. So they really work as a complement to one another. And then if a developmental screening shows that there are more concerns, that's when decisions can be made about whether referrals should be made for a full evaluation. So what do I mean by milestones? They're things that kids can do every day, how they play, learn, speak, and act. Tracking milestone helps parents understand that watching for milestones is part of their job. It's part of their job. It helps them understand child development a little bit better, and it can pinpoint any concerns. It can also help ease concerns. So sometimes parents are, I'm so concerned my child doesn't know his letters and he's 2. Okay, well, let's look at the milestones. Okay, guess what? He shouldn't know them yet. He's right on track. Or my child is telling me no all the time. There's got to be something wrong with him. He's right on track. So sometimes these checklists can be used to help ease parents' concerns. So the Learn the Signs Act early materials were developed by the Center for Disease Control in conjunction with the American Academy of Pediatrics. They're objective and research-based and free. Available easily in English and Spanish, and then particularly in the Bay Area, you can probably test their limits with the amount of different languages that are needed up here. But we can easily, we can find the language you need. So the great thing about our network is we're connected to the other ambassadors across the United States and all of the US territories, and somebody somewhere will have these tools in the language that you need. And so that's where I can be your point of contact also. If you say, gosh, we need something in this language, I can get in there and email, okay, everybody, I need something in this. So you can hang posters. We really just want to be talking about developmental milestones on a regular basis. We don't want to wait until we have a concern about a child to talk about developmental milestones. It should be something we're talking about universally all of the time and with all families, because that is the hard part. When you do have a concern, you never want that to be your first conversation with parents. Parents might say, why are you judging me? Or if you're, they might pull their kid from your care. Those are things that might happen or have happened before too. So it's a conversation that needs to be entered in thoughtfully and not quickly and not abruptly. And so those tips for talking with parents, please take those home with you, refer to them. There are brochures that you can hand out to families. There are these booklets that we have at the table. The domains they look over are social emotional, language and communication, cognitive, movement and physical development. And it's important to know that those other domains are there as well, because think about what questions do we usually hear. When did he walk? When did he crawl? So people are commonly asking about the physical milestones, but we certainly need to ask about those communication milestones, the social milestones. That's going to give us a more broad picture of the child. Not just, when did he say his first word or walk or crawl? Is he taking turns? Is he playing with other children? Does he like to play with other children? So parents can use these tools for well-child visits. It's a way for us to also talk to parents if concerns are present. If you were to have those conversations, having this book there as a guideline would help your conversation be more objective. That way it's not just your opinion, right?
Evidence.
Yeah, it's not your opinion. These are, actually, you can all go home with a set of these today since there are only 3 of you here. You can order these laminated. Sorry, cameraman, that I'm walking around. I'm not used to being followed by the camera all the time. You can order these laminated checklists, and they can be sent to you also for free. So, I'm going to pull that out and let's share the other one with her there. Hello. You want to join us? You're welcome to join us. Let me see. I need to stop moving for a second. There we go. All right. So you can also just print those checklists off of the website as well. But those are a nice laminated set that you can order and have them sent to you. So the app, as I was saying, now there's the free Milestone Tracker app that we would encourage you to invite parents with children birth through 5 to download. And as we said, it's free, and now it's in English and Spanish. It has illustrated milestone checklists. It gives them summaries of each of the milestones. It's interactive, user-friendly. Oh, this is another great point. It's free, and they're not going to have ads popping up to them. So that's important, and may encourage parents to say, oh, good, I would love to have this because I'm not going to be having pop-ups all day long. So they can complete the checklist online, and then if concerns were present, it would let them know and give them steps on what they can take, what they can do next. So this page lists possible developmental red flags that, if selected, indicate we need to talk with the child's doctor. It says it may be time to act, and so the parents would get a notice like this and encourage them to talk to a professional. They also will get summaries of their child's overall development, and once again, they can access the tips and activities through this app. Also, for each milestone, there are videos and pictures that can show the parent what that milestone is really talking about. So it goes beyond just the words, because the parent might be like, well, I'm not exactly sure what that means. They can click on the picture or the video to learn a little bit more about each of the milestones. It'll also send them appointment reminders if they have a doctor's appointment, whatever appointments the parents put into the app. So it's multifaceted. So any questions so far? I know that you're going to be leaving soon. So any questions so far? Okay, good. So because I know you're going to leave, think out loud. Let's talk about what are some ways that you can use some of these materials.
During a conference,
Yes.
during a home visit,
Okay. Great.
because a lot of times we give them the ASQ and they really don't know it.
I know.
How to do it.
I know.
So you pretty much have to
I know.
talk to them about, what does this mean?
I know.
They'll score it, they'll put it wrong, and it looks like they're all in the black. We score them, and they all have problems. Like, no, your child can do these things. I've seen it already.
So, which is why I want these tools to be used in between all of the developmental screening. So by the time it's time for them to complete the screening, they know what we're talking about. They know what this is asking, and they can be more accurate. And maybe they won't be so scared of what the results can say.
That was my son, the school psychologist.
Awesome!
I work very closely with our pre-K teacher, and I think sometimes too when you work with special ed pre-K, it's a little easy to get, skewed off into one direction with what is normal
Yeah.
anymore. So I think
Right? No, you're right.
reference point for that as well.
Yeah. No, it's great. And it's great that now you are more aware of what you can share with all families. Yeah, no, I do think all children have challenging behaviors because that's typically all I work with now, So when I walk into a preschool and everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, I'm like, what's going on?
They're all
Well, thank you. So do you have any other questions at this point? Okay, stay another 10 minutes. Let's see what else I've got on here. All right. So there are free books that you can share with the families as well or put in your classrooms. And so today you're going home with, the 2-year-old book in Spanish because I didn't have any English copies at my house. And it's Donde está Osito? And so that's the 2-year-old bear. Where is Bear? And he's going through all of his 2-year-old developmental milestones. And the 3-year-old book is also in English and Spanish. I wanted to say soy maravilloso, because that's how you say it in Spanish, amazing me. And so that's our little 3-year-old meeting all of his developmental milestones. Oh, I had somebody tell me the other day, when the parents complete their developmental screenings and return them, then the teacher gives the parent the booklet. Like the Amazing Me booklet. So some schools have some great ways to incentivize getting those screenings complete, and they're, reinforcing the parents with the Amazing Me book. And you can order all of these for free on the CDC website. You can also, and you're taking home the growth chart on the left today. These are growth charts that you can order for free, and English and Spanish, and show certain milestones at certain points in time. The one on the left also has immunizations and when those should be completed for the children. So more free tools, getting people talking about milestones on a regular basis. And you can customize the materials. This is an example of the Milestone Moment booklet, the First 5 California customized. So you can see their logo here. And CDC wants this information out there. So you do not have to buy the rights to anything. You can use these and customize them as you would like. If that's something that your agency is interested in doing, contact me so I can guide you through and get you the templates for everything. But customize them and to show that your agencies are really in support of learning the signs and acting early. Milestones in action, especially if maybe you do parent workshops. A lot of those videos that I was talking about that are in the app, they're also on the website under Milestones in Action, both in English and Spanish. And so you've got videos and photos of each of the milestones. If you're on social media, great little videos that you can post every once in a while. Like, hey, look, this is an example of what 2-year-olds do in social emotional. So also there's the autism case training. And as a school psychologist, you might be interested when you need to have your continuing ed units. And these were created for the medical field where they can get their continuing medical ed units, their nursing units, or general CEU units. And you can do those for free online on the CDC's website. And you'll learn about early warning signs of autism, how to screen for autism, communicating concerns with parents, different treatment options. Even if you don't want to go through the entire autism case training, I would encourage you to check it out. There are great videos which display children with certain autism characteristics. They also have videos of children of similar age showing behavior similar but are not considered symptoms of autism. For example, the favorite video I like to show is the little guy who is having a meltdown. And he's a little guy who is on the spectrum. And it shows how qualitatively different his meltdown is to a typical 4-year-old's tantrum. and, you know, his very robotic talk and cyber chase, cyber chase, cyber chase, cyber chase. And it's really a good training tool to help people understand this little guy is not being bad. He really doesn't understand why that show needs to be turned off. He really doesn't know why his mom had to turn off that show. So I would encourage you to look at those videos and think about how you can incorporate them into your work. I typically use them when I'm training people. Usually I work with child care providers or preschool teachers, general ed, and I'm trying to give them tips on how to work with children with special needs. There's also Watch Me. So this is specifically a training created for early childhood educators, and you can get 1 hour of professional growth time. You can do it at home in your pajamas. You don't have to do it all at once. And it's created particularly for those of you working with little ones 0 to 5, and how you can incorporate these tools, great videos on how to have those hard conversations with parents, scripts on what to say when you have concerns, what not to say. That's one that always cracks me up, all the examples of what not to say. And I always have people in the audience going, whoops, I might have said that once. So, but I encourage you to check that out. That's also in English and Spanish and free. Maybe in a little bit, I will show the active listening video. It's something that's pretty powerful for many of the preschool teachers, because many of you have wanted to have that conversation but didn't know where to begin. So there's also a Go Out and Play kit for early educators. You can download this, and it gives you tips and ideas of what you can do to set up your environment to make sure that kids are developing across all of the domains. Also in that is a handout that you can share with parents, and there's another page, tips for talking with parents. So that's another thing that you can find on the website. Oh, follow us on social media. So you can like us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And we're Learn the Signs Act Early California. We try to keep you up to date with any of the Learn the Signs Act Early materials and resources, or anything that might be relevant in our 0 to 5 field. So let's go to the website really quickly so I can show you. Do we have any questions or comments from our audience member? Okay, that person, are they still there? Let's see. I might have to close this down. Sometimes you can't show the PowerPoint and get online at the same time. Okay, I have to close the PowerPoint. Give me 1 moment, please. I can find it again. Come on. 1 more. There we go. Okay. 3. There we go. Okay. So this is the website when you first get on, and you could also, I don't know if you could see right here, but you could switch the languages. Oh, here it is. You could switch to a variety of languages, English or Spanish, to access the website, which is nice, which means most of the resources are available in Spanish also. But you can see, you can access milestone checklists, handouts, or information on what to do as a parent if you're concerned, specifically a page for families, specifically a page for healthcare providers, a page for home visitors, more about the Learn the Signs Act Early program. If you're working in a WIC program, specific information on how you can use these tools. If you're an early childhood educator, let's click on that. And it gives you quick links to the Watch Me training. One-pagers if you're an early Head Start or Head Start provider, how you can use these tools in your work. And let's see. And here is the Watch Me training that I was talking about, where you can get your professional growth hours, and you can just go through and complete the modules right here, and you don't have to do it all in one setting. You can come back to it a little at a time. If you wanted to order your free materials, you can go to this page, and there's the milestone moment booklets, those nice checklists that you're taking. Milestones in action, that's how we'll link to that. There's Where is Bear, Amazing Me, tips for talking with parents, handouts. If you wanted to hand out to your parents a little card that gives information about how to access the app, other posters that you can print out or order. Let's see. There's the autism case training, information on if you wanted to customize. So lots of great information. Let me take you really quickly to the milestones in action. Milestones in action, photos and videos. So you would click on, any age, and let's click on the 4-month-old, and you could look at social emotional or language or cognitive or movement and physical. So as I said, you can use these in your home visits, you can use them in parent workshops, you can do them for staff training. So let's see one really quickly. Very quick. Okay. That's really quick. It was not supposed to be that quick. No, we don't have the sound working. That's okay. That's all right. So, just lots of little examples there of what milestones at certain points in time. I wonder if this is the one where the little guy rolls over. I do the social media pages, and the little guy who rolled over that video got the most attention. They say babies and doggies, bring high ratings. Yes, it's true. All right. So thank you for joining us today. So in a moment, I'm going to show the video on how to have those conversations with families. But at this point, do you have any questions or comments? Do we have a question over there? Oh, the sound's working now? Farther away. Okay, there we go. How are you thinking you can use the materials?
Well, to use as referrals.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting though because the community I work in is pretty affluent, and so their access to like child psychologist or behaviorist is, they're pretty
Savvy.
savvy with that. But when I worked in Migrant Head Start before, there was a kind of disconnect because it was a world they, for their own day-to-day survival, weren't able to navigate, or they didn't live in that reality. It's like survival meant we all need to be okay, and if there's something wrong with our child, or not wrong, but if our
Yes,
child
he's
has
developing differently.
developing
Yep.
differently, I can't miss work. How am I gonna, so even when I provide them with the referrals or resources, they're like, really overwhelmed. So I think that's, it seems like the communities or the populations that are most in need of resources like this often
Don't have the access, yes.
Yeah.
Or, there might be a bigger stigma also if they did choose to access them. So it's very, it's complex, certainly complex. And you are right that families who have more education or more financial resources also tend to live closer to where there are services. Or lead the way and do not need a lot of extra support in learning how to advocate for their children. So,
I will say of the assessments I've done where there have been concerns, that the two families that had the hardest time, like working in collaboration and having me refer them to early intervention, were two families that both the husband and wife were doctors. It's like this can't, this is not our reality. We can't have this in our family. We're all successful. We're like there's like they just are resistant to there's so much judgment and stigma about brain chemistry issues or neurological ones. There's this idea we're perfect.
by the way, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
I think too, sometimes for parents, it's also almost like a grieving process.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Like,
yes.
you just lost so many dreams as soon as someone said this, one thing. And we've also, part of the point of this conference too is to understand that where kids start is not always where they finish.
Right.
And I think when parents are first hearing that information, it's so shocking and overwhelming that it's really difficult to not understand how that's going to be their future forever or their child's future forever. And I can't help thinking about how many kids come in and, in the beginning, maybe they even qualify for IEP or autism. When in reality, like I worked in a high school for the last 4 years, by the time you get to high school, they may not even need an IEP
Right.
because although you may still have autism, you don't have an educational need. You're functional now.
And that's really our hope is you get the early supports early on and then you don't need them as much later on. So this is what is prior to now working in the 0 to 5 world, had you ever worked in the 0 to 5 world before? Okay. So I'm going to tell you it is the toughest thing. The toughest thing is that you are at the start of maybe letting a parent know that something may not be going how we planned. And hope at that point is outweighing reality. He talked about that in there, balancing reality and their hope. And I'm telling you, the only way that I think that we can really help parents is to bring other parents along that have been there. And it's the only way I think that we can do that because I can educate a parent till I'm blue in the face about the importance of early brain development. But that's not what they need to hear at that time. They need to hear from another parent, I've been there. And at that point, I was wondering whether or not I should get services for my child. I'm glad I did because now he's in high school and doing, so. But the hope is so strong still that they might grow out of it that, that's often what gets in the way of parents acting early. So we really have to think about, that's why it's important that we really talk about this at a community level. We need all parents to be tracking milestones to reduce the stigma if there's a concern so that we can act early when the brain is most malleable. But it's tough. It's tough because by the time the child is 3rd grade or 4th grade, parents are coming to a little more acceptance. Oh, okay, maybe he's not going to grow out of it. But by that time, that's a lot of years that have gone by that we could have been helping. What else? You've got some lot of great insights.
Yeah, I really appreciate you reminding me of the breathing
Oh,
process.
yeah.
Because it's so, and also it's really important to acknowledge that parents as their child's first teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And to allow them to do that, giving you information. I've noticed it,
Yeah, and I was glad at the last keynote too. You mentioned about how recognizing that the parent goes through child best. So I often in these meetings will say, and I even actually say those words: "You are the expert in your child," because it's so scary too being in those meetings. And I think the more you can do before that actual meeting to kind of break down some of these issues in a similar way to what you're saying, where it's not the first time they're hearing something.
Should
It's
not
not
be.
abrupt news. It's not, I think that's really helpful. And, even if we just reflect in our own lives, sometimes we got shocking news or scary news, it's very difficult to process the first time we hear it. So you add up more people sitting around the
Oh.
table you've never seen before, you've never met. I can only imagine how that can also make people defensive and less likely to engage in the process. And then if you add cultural issues on top of that, I mean,
I've s-
language, you know what I mean?
Yep.
We're using
Oh, yes.
translator and it's just
A language or the words you're using that make no sense or the acronyms. Oh, I've sat in many SSTs where the parents have gotten cold feet and have never come. Like we've led up and talked about the importance of coming, made these referrals, and guess who does not show up? And I'm thinking of one in particular who came in showing me videos of her child because she knew for sure. It took her a while, but now she knew, okay, there's something going on, and I do believe it probably is autism. Okay, so now I'm here. The doctor had mentioned it a year ago, and I didn't want to do anything, but now I'm here. So she was ready, kind of. Kind of. It's one thing to have that discussion, but then to actually sit at that table and it become official, complicated.
I think that's what's so important and relevant to me about inclusion is especially the earlier we do it, the more
Everybody, yes, everybody gets used to seeing people of all abilities at all times.
Yeah, and so with inclusion, it's like the conversation is really different because you're talking about the
What are you thinking over there? Besides, gosh, it's getting late.
No, I'm reading this cute book about being 3 years old, and I'm thinking about the kids in my class.
Yeah. And you can add them to your library in your class now, too, and the kids can flip through them. Yeah, great. So I am going to show you the active listening's concerns video because it does model the teacher having the conversations with the parents and using these tools. The only thing I always say before setting up this video is, interestingly enough, the child that she has concerns about is follows directions 100% of the time. So I'm like, okay, that's typically not who we're concerned about, but that's okay. But then I've had parents say, but you know what? I'm glad that they're talking about that because my daughter was that child and, she was overlooked because she was compliant. So then I bring that part in like, okay, all right. So I'm going to show this video. You're welcome to stay or go. And then we'll just kind of chit chat. And then I will stay as long as you ladies would like to stay or go.
Hello, Miss Williams. How are you doing today?
Good. How
It's
are
so
you?
good to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
Before I jump in, I must let you know that Jaden is such a sweetheart. I really enjoy having him in my class.
Good.
Yeah. We're going to talk about how things are going at school, but I'd love to know first before we jump in, how are things going at home?
Things seem to be going okay at home. Sometimes I wonder if he's a little bit too good, though. I know a lot of my friends with kids that are 2, they always complain about the terrible 2s, and Jaden really always seems to mind us. He doesn't even get upset if we turn off a video he's watching because it's time for bed, and he doesn't really seem to try to do a lot of things on his own.
Okay.
My husband is wondering if maybe we're babying him too much.
It sounds like you might be a little concerned. So, did you have a chance to fill out the milestone checklist that I gave you last time?
I did. I have it right here.
I actually have been doing the same thing here and keeping up as well. So why don't we take a look and just compare what we have?
Okay.
Looks like he has the motor skills, and in classroom he loves playing with the ball.
My husband plays ball with him all the time. He loves it.
That's great because that's an activity that will be really great for helping further develop his motor skills. Let's take a look at the language section and see how he's doing. He knows all the kids' names in the classroom
Good.
for sure. And he definitely points to things or pictures when they're named.
He definitely repeats words that he's heard in conversation. We know when we've messed up because we hear the same words come out of his mouth later on.
Well, kids at that age are like little sponges, right? So they just soak up everything, and some of the things that they repeat we're okay with, and then sometimes not so much, right? Yeah, I noticed Jaden, he follows instructions 100% of the time. And that is a little unusual at this age. Typically, kids at his age, they don't do that. They can be a little resistant, sometimes even defiant. For example, if another child is playing with a toy and you ask them to share and maybe give it back, they may get a little upset, maybe even throw a tantrum. And I don't see that reaction from Jaden. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant when I said that I wonder if he's a little bit too good.
I hear you. I'm a little concerned about that as well. Now, I'll tell you that all children are different and develop at different paces. But at this age, Jaden should be a little bit more independent. And what I mean by that is, for example, pouring his own juice or reaching up and climbing to get something that he wants. And with Jaden, he may see something that he wants, but he might just stand there and look at it and wait until someone brings it to him or gets it for him.
Right.
So why don't we take another look at the checklist and see what else we see?
Okay.
I've noticed here that you've put a question mark next to plays beside other children.
Yeah, Jaden's an only child, and he's the first grandchild on either side, so I never really get a chance to see him with other children.
That's not unusual, and I welcome you at any point if you want to schedule some time to come and sit and observe in the classroom. You're more than welcome to do that.
Okay.
Love to have you. I've actually noticed Jaden playing beside other children, but I haven't seen him interacting with children. Have you noticed that?
I had a friend over recently, and she had a 6-year-old daughter. She was out in the yard doing somersaults, and Jaden went out and tried to copy her. Is that what this one is? Copies others, especially adults and other children?
That's exactly what that is, and it's super cute that Jaden was copying her somersaults. And as we talked earlier about his motor skills being so strong, I'm pretty sure he'll have that down pat really soon. Let's take a look at the cognitive section together. Jaden is doing a really great job of sorting his shapes and colors, but I also see that we both don't have anything checked next to complete sentences and rhymes in books, as well as plays make-believe. Does Jade have a favorite book that he likes to read at home, or have you read for him at home?
He does. One of his favorites is a rhyming book about a bear. He'll ask me to read it over and over again. I always kind of pause and wait to see if he'll finish the rhyme, but he always just looks at me and waits for me to finish it. He has another one about trucks that we read a lot, and he'll point at the trucks and name them, or if he doesn't know the name, he'll just say truck.
So he likes for you to read to him, but he doesn't complete the rhymes.
Right.
Yeah. What about make-believe? Does he play pretend, for instance, like pretending like he's talking on the phone or playing house?
No, I don't really see him doing things like that either. There seem like there's a lot of things we haven't checked on here. Should I be worried? Is he behind?
I know you're concerned, but what I want you to know is that you're doing all the right things by tracking his development. I think at this point, the best next step is that we talk to the doctor. So I'd encourage you to schedule an appointment so that you can talk with the pediatrician.
Now that we've gone through the list, I'm worried. Could this be because of something that we're doing? Could we be babying him too much, doing too much for him?
I know you're concerned, Miss Williams, but I want you to know that you and Mr. Williams are great parents. Based on what you've shared with me today, you're doing all the right things to help Jaden along with his development. You shared with me that you're reading to him and your husband's playing ball, and those are the types of activities that are really helpful as we're trying to help Jaden along with his development. At this point, to find out more, I think the best next step is for you to talk to the doctor and express your concerns.
Okay, he is a little late for his 2-year-old checkup, so I've been meaning to call and make an appointment.
Great, and when you call and talk with the receptionist to schedule the appointment, let them know that you are concerned about Jaden's development and specifically ask that the pediatrician do a developmental screen. Okay. And to do that, the doctor will probably give you a sheet of paper that asks you some questions about Jaden and his development. And also what I'll do before you leave today, I'll give you a developmental screening fact sheet so that you have a better idea of what to expect with that process. And let's be sure that you bring these checklists with you, both yours and the one, I'll make a copy of this for you so you can bring this one that we have at school so that the doctor can get a better idea of Jaden at home and at school as well.
Okay.
And then the results of the developmental screen is what will tell us if there are issues with Jaden's development. And if there are issues for Jaden, either you or I can call the early intervention program to see if he's eligible for services. Are you familiar with early intervention?
Yes, I knew a child who got speech therapy through early intervention, but I need to talk to my husband before I do anything.
Of course. And I'd be happy to talk to Mr. Williams or the both of you again together. Just let me know what you'd like. But in the meantime, I'd like to share with you a Milestone Moments booklet, which has milestones by age up to 5 years old. But in this section, it's also giving you tips for activities that you can do with Jaden to help him along with his development. So be sure to share this with your husband and you guys can work on that together.
Okay, great.
There you go.
Thank you.
I know I've shared a lot of information with you, Miss Williams. Would it be helpful if I went over a list of next steps with you again?
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
Great. Well, we've got notepads there if you want to take notes. So, of course, the first step is to talk with Mr. Williams and share with him the milestone checklist as well as the tips for activities that you can do with Jaden to help him along with his development. Then you'll want to call the doctor to schedule the appointment and make sure that when you call that you ask specifically for the developmental screening. And you want to make sure that you bring the checklist along with you, the checklist that you've been keeping as well as the checklist that I've been keeping so that the doctor can get a good picture of how Jaden's doing at home as well as at school. And I think a good next step that will be helpful is if you review the developmental screening fact sheet that I'm going to give you to be sure you guys understand the process and know what to expect. You want to make sure you, before you go, make a list of questions that you have for the doctor in advance. One thing to keep in mind is the idea of calling the early intervention program. You don't need a referral from the doctor, and remember, if you have any questions, I'm here to help you guys along the way. I want to make sure that I'm here to support you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. These meetings are really helpful for me to be able to talk through Jaden's development. Now I feel more comfortable knowing what our next steps are.
And I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about it. And it's a partnership. We're in this together. And so if you have questions, like I said, along the way or anything, I'm here to support both you, Mr. Williams, as well as Jaden.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And when you guys are ready to talk and schedule another meeting, just let me know.
All right.
Okay, have a good day.
What did you think about that?
Very informative with parent. She was really friendly. She talked to him. She told her how she enjoys having the child in the class, so she's really positive.
Have you had conversations like that with families? It's not easy, right? So I actually would encourage you that if you know you have to have one of those conversations, practice with the coworker ahead of time. You know, the more you have those conversations, they won't be as hard, but it's never easy to talk to a parent about a concern.
And always show them their strengths.
Absolutely.
Strengths usually a lot of strengths, and then you just point out the challenges.
Yeah. Well, and then ask them if they've had concerns themselves, you know, really getting them to start looking and identifying whether it's a concern or not. You know, oftentimes you might want to invite the parents into your classroom, right? You know, especially if that's their first child or an only child. Maybe they truly don't know what other children are doing at that same age. And I agree with you that parents are all on their own spectrum of acceptance. And there isn't any rhyme or reason to which parents are going to be more open versus not so open, and more ready versus not so ready. You know, and I've handed these booklets out to families for children that I'm pretty sure had the children had big concerns, but the father told me, these are American milestones. These are not my culture's milestones. And where there's some truth to that, that was still another one of those, not my child. You know, and so, okay, there's nothing I can do if the parents aren't on board. So and so that's why our number one job is to just really help parents to understand the milestones. And then if and when the parents also have the same concerns, then we can be partners. Like she said, they're partners in going for that next step. All right. So what's one thing that you might do differently now that you've spent the hour in here with me?
Probably just do what the lady was doing, being really positive, and
Okay.
have a lot of information ahead of time, document things that you see, so you're not just, picking things out of the sky.
Okay. And documenting the good things along the way too, right? Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. And sharing this with your coworkers?
Yes.
Okay, great. Is that one of the things you're thinking about?
I'm thinking about, I much prefer having like a checklist
Yeah.
And partnerships with the families rather than we do the desired result.
Uh-huh.
developmental
Yep,
profile.
that's my tomorrow in Watsonville.
They're so extended.
Yeah.
We have a learning genie I have it on my phone, which has all the DRDP.
Yeah. That's another one of my hats. But so in helping to explain the DRDP results with the families is probably pretty overwhelming. Yeah. Now, are the parents helping collect evidence for the DRDPs, or you're just sharing the results with the families?
We do most all the evidencing.
Yeah.
And we invite the families to, be a part of the process. At the beginning of the year, I give a copy of it to everyone.
Okay, good.
But I've worked at this one at the temple for over 10 years now, and I haven't had one family turn it in.
Oh,
They're like,
it's very overwhelming.
"You're
Yeah.
gonna do the work."
Yeah. Yeah, and what we train about for the DRDP is that everybody can contribute evidence. But yes, I certainly wouldn't put it on a parent to complete it. Now, the nice thing about the DRDP though is it's going to show where a child is and not comparing it to other children or comparing the child's skills to other children, and there are no ages on there. So maybe if you had a child that had some delays, at least we can identify this is where your child is, and we can see where he's starting to progress. So there's a great way to use it, especially with children with special needs. Although it's difficult. I mean, I remember last year trying to complete a DRDP with a little guy on the spectrum, and it was very hard to sit there and I completed it with the mother. I was kind of doing a project, but it was one difficult because the little guy had very low skills, and so sitting with mama and trying to identify where his highest developmental level mastered was, even though it was still on the lower.
Not exploring for the whole year.
for a lot of different things, a lot of different things, but, kind of thinking, okay, he's nonverbal, where can I, where can I find his strengths here? Because there's a place to show everybody's strengths, but so there's one advantage, especially when you're working with the children with the special needs, there aren't ages attached, which is kind of, and I don't want to say the downfall, but that's one of the setbacks for the checklist, because it might make a parent feel even worse to know, gosh, my child is not doing this and it says he should be doing this. So, but the checklist, the parents would much prefer to complete the checklist than the DRDP, right? Okay, there you go. And they give us different information. So the checklist and the screenings are giving us information about, should we be concerned about a developmental disability or a social emotional concern. The DRDP, it's not giving that as information. It's just specifically telling us what a child can do within each domain. So it is giving us different information. And that's meant to inform your teaching and your curriculum and your environment. But it's not going to tell you your little guy is showing signs of autism or showing signs of, another type of concern. So great. So you might start incorporating the checklists with the families. All right? Awesome. And you can get those for free off of the website. Even better. All right. Any last questions or comments? Has this been worth your time? Okay. Oh, well, I think we've been here over an hour, so I think if we end right now, it's okay. You've put your time in. They won't give us looks on the way out. And if they do, you're like, hold on, we're the two that are still here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take if it's out there, you can take it, of course.